Believe it or not, there's been more than 200 episodes of this podcast since we started it in 2023. And there's a very real chance that I might have done a show on this or something very similar to this in the past. But I feel really strongly about it, and it got brought up again today. And I think it's worth having the discussion or making the note that college football games need to be on campus, or maybe not even on campus as much as like in home stadiums, because some schools don't play on campus. But if you're going to have great non-conference games, in my opinion, you are doing a disservice to your fans, to your students, to your university, whatever the case may be, by not having those games in your home stadium. And I understand the allure of playing in an NFL stadium or playing in an exotic location against a big-time opponent on national TV, and there's major sponsorship dollars. I get it all. For instance, today, it was announced that Miami is going to play Utah in Las Vegas in 2027. Miami versus Utah would be an awesome non-conference matchup. It'd be great. It's really cool. If it was going to be played in Rice-Eccles, and then also at Hard Rock Stadium. It'd be awesome, but it's not. It's going to be played in Las Vegas. And I get the idea of like, hey, this is a recruiting pitch to future recruits. I'm like, you guys want to go to Vegas? We're going to play in Vegas. Now, if you're Miami, you're like, oh, who gives a damn about Vegas? You're Miami. But for Utah, like, hey, we're going to Vegas. It's a fun trip for your fans, etc. But you know what would be more fun? Playing that game in your home stadium. And it's one thing that college basketball gets really wrong about its schedule is that the almost overwhelming majority of good non-conference matchups in college basketball come in, multi-team events where you have 8 teams in Maui or the Cayman Islands or the Bahamas or the Sanford Event Center in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I don't get that one, but it very rarely is it like Duke is going to go to Michigan State. It just generally doesn't happen that way. You're not going to get a North Carolina is traveling to UCLA to play in Pauley Pavilion. It doesn't happen, and it should, because it's awesome for the students. It's awesome for the fans. There's this epidemic in college football where attendance is down. Fans are not going to games in numbers like they used to. And there are several different reasons for that. And anybody that will tell you that it's one specific is lying, because it's not. There are numerous reasons for why attendance is down. But I think one of them is, or could be viewed as, like, sometimes your home schedule just sucks. If you're a fan of insert whatever team you'd like, every once in a while you just get a dog baby of a schedule that's like, I'm not going to pay the ticket prices to watch us beat some FCS school or a group of 5 school by 50 when it's 90 degrees outside, or conversely, if you're in the Midwest or upper Great Plains, whatever. I'm not going to go watch that game when it's 28 degrees outside. I'm not going to hoof it. I'm not going to pay $50 to park, still a mile away, walk to the stadium, walk my fat ass, just in my case, up to the 3rd level of the stadium to sit squished in like a pack of batteries in this section to watch a bad football game. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to sit at home. I'm going to watch it in the warmth of my own, or cool of my own home, and watch the game in 4K. That's just an easy choice. So when that's the situation, like, I think you need to do everything you can in today's entertainment world to do everything you can to put butts in seats. And the idea of like, hey, I got a great idea. We're going to take our best product and we're going to move it over here, make it somewhat more difficult for our diehard fans to go see their favorite team play. They're going to spend more money. The concession prices are going to be higher. They're going to pay more for ticket prices. They're going to pay more for hotels, travel, etc. But it'll be really cool for our fans to experience this city. And in like this case, it's Las Vegas. It's the cheapest place in America to fly for a reason, because they want you there. Everybody can go to Vegas whenever. Like, the idea that Utah fans being in Vegas, their team playing in Vegas is going to be this big driver for them. It's like, you can go to Vegas whenever you want. Miami fans can go to Vegas whenever they want. The idea that like this college football game is going to propel them there is, I don't get it. And it's becoming increasingly more prevalent in the sport, and I don't like it. If you go back even just the last couple of years, Alabama played Miami, a non-conference game. In Atlanta, Notre Dame played Wisconsin. In Chicago, Georgia played Clemson. In Charlotte, Oregon played Georgia and Atlanta. Last year, if you were to go through and count like, okay, in 2023, what are the premier non-conference games? One of them, and probably one of in the top 5 outside of, if you count, like if you go like Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas, Alabama. In 2023, LSU versus Florida State, gigantic non-conference matchup. And they played it in Orlando. Do you have any idea how awesome it would be for Florida State to go into Baton Rouge and play that game? And conversely, for LSU to go to Tallahassee to play the Seminoles. Big time atmosphere, awesome event situation for the sport. And it didn't happen. It happened in Orlando. Last year, North Carolina played South Carolina. In Charlotte, Louisville played Indiana and Indianapolis. This year, LSU is going to open the season against USC in Las Vegas. And Georgia's going to play Clemson in Atlanta. But it's not always that case, right? Like Alabama traveling to Wisconsin this season. Next year, Michigan is at Oklahoma. Notre Dame is at Texas A&M. Alabama is at Florida State. So not every big-time non-conference game is happening in neutral sites. And that's a very good thing, because I don't know that there's a way to, and I don't know that it should be penalized, but you should be discouraged a little bit from playing a neutral site game. Now, I understand that there are like long-standing neutral site games. I'm not saying Texas and Oklahoma should be in Norman and in Austin. Now, I would feel that way. Like, I think it would be way cooler. But I'm not a part of that rivalry. I'm not a part of the people deciding that. And if they feel like playing in the Cotton Bowl during the Texas State Fair is what they want to do, then more power to them. And I'm not saying the world's largest outdoor cocktail party should switch from being played in Jacksonville, but to go to Athens and to Gainesville every year. But it sure would be awesome to see those environments in on-campus stadiums. So there are games like that there are long-standing. We play this at a neutral site. And I'm not necessarily saying that, but especially in non-conference games where you don't see Georgia versus Florida, Texas versus Oklahoma every year, where Alabama's going to play at Ohio State in a couple of seasons, and Ohio State's going to go to Tuscaloosa, or Michigan, Oklahoma is another prime example of two big-time programs going at it in a home and home. It loses some of its luster, in my opinion, if it becomes Michigan versus Oklahoma at Jerry World. Yeah, all right. It's still a cool game. I'm still going to watch. But to me, it's a lot cooler if that game happens in Oklahoma's on-campus stadium at the Big House. That game has big-time staying power. It has notoriety. We are going to pay attention to that because we don't see this every day. And I can see football played at Cowboy Stadium or AT&T Stadium, whatever the hell it's called, Cowboy Stadium, damn near every Sunday. It feels like Cowboys play 17 home games every year. You can see that. We get bowl games for weeks at a time where you get teams playing at a neutral site. I don't need it in the regular season too. And again, I understand the justifications for it. I understand that Chick-fil-A is going to pony up a bunch of money, and Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas is going to make damn sure that they've got a good premier non-conference game every year or every couple of years. And there might be a case to be made of like, hey, if your stadium is going to be paid for by public money, you better be getting more use out of it than just 8 NFL Sundays throughout the season. But that's a different discussion for a different day. Get the games on campus. Get them on campus. Utah going to Miami to start the season in 2027 would be awesome. Or Miami getting to go to Salt Lake City would be cool. And there needs to be more of that instead of games in Atlanta, Charlotte, Las Vegas. Eventually, I think we're going to away from what I'd like to see, where you're going to see games played, non-conference games. Like, well, okay, the Detroit Lions now won a game indoors in the preseason, and the Minnesota Vikings and the Indianapolis Colts and all these teams are going to start saying, well, we can get more money from sponsors for suites and advertising and all these things if we get games into our buildings. And to do that, we'll throw a little bit of scratch to insert team here. And I think we're going more towards that model, and I don't like it. And I will bitch about it until the end of time. Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. Get your big-time non-conference games in on-campus stadiums, in front of your students, in front of your fans, in front of your boosters, at your universities. Because there's one of the things I love about college football is traveling to go watch my favorite team, and you see the campus of another school, and you're like, you know what? Like, Purdue might suck at football, but they got a badass campus. Like, this is a really nice place. And experiencing those things is part of the fun of college football. And to me, I would much rather go experience a college campus in a college town where it is the big game in town. It is like the Ringling Brothers Barnum Bailey Circus every Saturday. I'd much rather see that than the area outside of NFL Stadium where it's just kind of there. It's just my opinion. But I think really and feel really strongly about this situation in college football that get your big-time non-conference game. Like, I have a lot of respect for schools who don't, who say, like, for Michigan and Oklahoma for 2025 and 2026. Like, to hell with, like, well, let's play in Detroit. And believe me, I understand. Like, I pitched this a couple of weeks ago. Like, instead of home and homes, let's play homes and neutrals. So I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but that's just a way to get better non-conference games if that's the last resort. In my opinion, if Michigan's going to play at Oklahoma or Notre Dame's going to play at Texas A&M, it is a hell of a lot cooler than if it's like, okay, well, we'll play in Dallas and we'll play in Detroit. Okay, it's still cool that you're going to play, but it's not as cool as getting that experience of playing at somebody's house, walking into a hostile environment, and trying your best and your damnedest to get out of there with a win. It's just how I feel about it. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out. Listen on the podcast feed. Drop a 5-star review. Goes a long way to helping out the channel. See you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.